Have you ever felt your stomach acting up for no clear reason? Maybe a wave of bloating after breakfast, a sudden heaviness after lunch, or a strange sense of discomfort that didn't quite match what you ate. A patient of mine once told me, "Doctor, it was just my stomach. I never imagined it had anything to do with my brain." And I want you to imagine this with me for a moment. Imagine that something happening silently inside your gut could be influencing your heart, your circulation, and even your stroke risk without you ever realizing it. As someone who has spent more than 30 years caring for older adults, I have seen this pattern more times than I can count. Seniors feel indigestion, constipation, or unexplained stomach tightness, and they dismiss it as age, stress, or a bad meal. But the truth is that your gut and your brain are connected in a powerful way. They communicate through a highway of nerves, hormones, and microscopic signals known as the gut-brain axis. When the gut becomes imbalanced, irritated, or inflamed, the signals that reach the brain can shift your blood pressure, increase inflammation inside your arteries, and silently set the stage for a stroke. One of my patients ignored months of bloating and fatigue. He thought he was simply slowing down. Later, he learned that gut inflammation had been increasing his blood pressure for weeks, narrowing blood vessels and putting him at serious risk. It was a wake-up call for him and a reminder for all of us that our bodies often whisper before they ever shout. That is why today's video matters so much. By the time you finish watching, you will understand how gut bacteria influence stroke risk, why silent gut problems often go unnoticed in seniors, what early signs you should never ignore, and how small daily habits can strengthen both your digestion and your brain. And before we continue, if this video is helping you already, please subscribe, like, and share Senior Health Daily. It gives us the motivation to keep creating life-saving content for you. In the next part, we will begin exploring how the gut communicates with the brain, and why this connection becomes even more important as we age. How the gut connects to the brain. I want you to imagine something simple. You wake up in the morning, maybe with a bit of bloating, or a stomach that feels just a little off. Nothing dramatic, nothing painful, just a strange discomfort you brush aside because it feels too small to matter. Most seniors tell me the same thing. "It's just age," they say, or "I probably ate too late last night." But after more than 30 years of caring for older adults, I have learned that the gut rarely acts up without a deeper story behind it. What many people don't know is that the gut and the brain are constantly talking to each other. They're connected through what we call the gut-brain axis, a communication highway made of nerves, hormones, and tiny chemical messengers produced by the bacteria living inside the digestive system. These bacteria aren't just along for the ride. They influence everything from mood and energy levels to inflammation, circulation, and blood vessel health. And when something disrupts this delicate balance, the entire body feels it, including the brain. I once cared for a patient named Harold, a gentleman in his 70s, who told me his stomach had been giving him trouble for months. He had chalked it up to stress, maybe something he ate, and he didn't see the need to check it. But he kept experiencing strange waves of fatigue, moments of dizziness, and rising blood pressure during routine visits. When we dug deeper, tests showed a clear pattern of gut inflammation and bacterial imbalance. That inflammation was quietly affecting his circulation and putting real strain on the vessels supplying his brain. Those little gut symptoms he brushed off were actually early warning signs that his body was under vascular stress. The truth is that harmful gut bacteria can create compounds that damage blood vessels. Inflammation from the gut can travel through the bloodstream and weaken the walls of arteries over time. Seniors are especially vulnerable because age naturally reduces bacterial diversity, slows digestion, and makes the immune system less balanced. So when the gut becomes imbalanced, the brain feels the consequences long before symptoms become obvious. Understanding this connection is powerful. It means you're not helpless. It means the gut you care for today can protect the brain you rely on tomorrow. And in the next section, we'll explore the hidden gut problems that quietly raise stroke risk long before anyone realizes what's happening. hidden gut problems that raise stroke risk. As we move deeper into this journey, I want to bring you into the heart of something many seniors experience every day without realizing the danger hidden beneath it. Gut problems often show up quietly. They don't scream, they don't demand attention, and they don't always feel serious. But the gut is one of the body's earliest alarm systems, and when it whispers, it's worth listening. Many older adults come to me with long histories of constipation. Some tell me they've lived with it for years. They laugh about needing prune juice or fiber supplements, or they say it's just part of getting older. But constipation isn't just uncomfortable. When stool builds up, pressure inside the abdomen rises. That rise in pressure can temporarily spike blood pressure as the body struggles to push waste through the intestines. For someone with small vessel disease or fragile arteries, even small spikes can weaken blood vessels over time. I've seen seniors experience a transient ischemic attack days after a bad bout of constipation that left their abdomen tight and swollen. Others experience something that feels like irritable bowel symptoms, alternating constipation and diarrhea, cramping or bloating that appears unpredictably. These symptoms often point to underlying gut inflammation. When the gut lining becomes irritated, it releases inflammatory chemicals into the bloodstream. These chemicals don't stay in the digestive system. They circulate through the whole body, and the blood vessels in the brain are especially sensitive to them. Inflamed vessels are more likely to form clots, stiffen, or narrow, increasing stroke risk without a single traditional symptom appearing. Then there are seniors who live with acid reflux. They may take antacids daily or sleep with extra pillows to keep stomach acid from rising. What they often don't realize is that chronic reflux signals deeper problems in the digestive tract. When the stomach is irritated long-term, inflammation spreads upward and downward. The body responds with stress hormones that elevate blood pressure and strain the cardiovascular system. I cared for a woman who believed her reflux was simply annoying. But when she came in for a checkup, her blood pressure had been elevated for months, and her arteries were showing signs of inflammatory stress. The gut problems she ignored were quietly feeding a dangerous cycle. One of the most underestimated conditions is what we call leaky gut, a situation where the tight barrier in the intestines becomes weakened. When that happens, toxins and inflammatory molecules escape into the bloodstream. Seniors often feel this as unexplained fatigue, brain fog, joint stiffness, or headaches. They rarely connect these symptoms to their gut because the discomfort feels mild or inconsistent. But the inflammation caused by a leaky gut travels directly to the brain's blood vessels, making them more vulnerable to clots and damage. I think often about one of my patients, a calm and thoughtful man named Joseph. He struggled with bloating and indigestion for almost a year, but said it was nothing serious. He never thought gut problems could affect anything beyond digestion. But when he started experiencing short bursts of confusion and intense fatigue, he sought help. Tests showed significant gut inflammation and elevated markers of vascular stress. Only then did he understand that the discomfort in his stomach wasn't isolated. It was part of a bigger picture his body had been trying to reveal. These hidden gut problems don't always feel dramatic, but they are powerful contributors to inflammation, blood pressure instability, clot formation, and arterial stiffness. And for seniors, those factors combine to create a dangerous environment for the brain. In the next section, we're going to explore how poor gut health creates silent stroke triggers long before major symptoms ever appear. How poor gut health creates silent stroke triggers. As we continue this conversation, I want you to picture your gut as a busy communication center. Every minute, signals move from the intestines to the brain, and from the brain back to the gut. This exchange is constant, gentle, and essential. But when something disrupts that harmony, the early warning signs of a stroke often begin right in the digestive system long before they show up in the brain. One of the ways poor gut health quietly triggers stroke risk is through inflammation. When the gut becomes irritated, harmful bacteria produce toxins that escape into the bloodstream. These toxins circulate freely and settle into blood vessels throughout the body, The vessels in the brain are especially sensitive. They are designed to protect your memories, your language, your balance, and your ability to think clearly. But they are also delicate. When inflammation reaches them, it stiffens the vessel walls and makes them less flexible. Over time, this increases the likelihood of clots forming in places where the blood should flow easily, setting the stage for a stroke. A second hidden danger comes from a compound called TMAO. It's produced when certain gut bacteria break down foods like red meat and eggs. Many people enjoy these foods without a second thought, but when gut bacteria are out of balance, the body produces more TMAO than it should. This compound has been linked to artery damage, clot formation, and a higher risk of cardiovascular events. Seniors with poor gut health can have elevated TMAO levels without feeling a single symptom. Meanwhile, their arteries may be slowly narrowing, becoming more vulnerable by the day. Another quiet trigger is constipation. It may seem like a small inconvenience, but the body tells a deeper story. When the intestines slow down, the abdomen builds pressure as the body tries harder to move waste along. That internal pressure temporarily raises blood pressure, sometimes dramatically, without the person ever realizing it. For seniors whose arteries are already fragile, these spikes can weaken the vessel walls or loosen a small clot that had been sitting quietly. More than once, I've seen patients come in after experiencing intense abdominal pressure, followed by dizziness or unusual fatigue. The earliest signs that their brain wasn't receiving steady blood flow. Dehydration makes all of this even worse. When the body lacks water, blood becomes thicker. Thick blood forces the heart to work harder, strains the arteries, and makes clot formation more likely. Seniors often drink less because they don't feel thirsty as strongly as they once did. What seems like a harmless habit can actually combine with gut problems to create the perfect storm for a silent stroke trigger. I remember a patient named Ellen who never drank enough water and struggled with digestive discomfort for years. She would wake up bloated, feel tired halfway through the day, and deal with frequent headaches. She assumed it was stress or age, but her blood work told a different story. Her inflammation markers were elevated, her blood was thicker than normal, and her gut bacteria were severely imbalanced. Weeks later, she experienced a brief episode of numbness in her left arm. Thankfully, she sought help immediately. Doctors discovered she had suffered a small TIA, most likely triggered by gut-related inflammation and dehydration she didn't realize were connected. Stories like Ellen's happen far more often than most people know. Poor gut health doesn't always sound dramatic, but it sends ripple effects throughout the entire body. These ripples reach the blood vessels, the heart, and eventually the brain, creating silent stroke risks long before any major symptom appears. In the next section, we'll talk about why seniors are especially vulnerable to these gut-related stroke triggers and how aging changes the entire gut-blood-brain pathway in ways most people never hear about. Senior-specific risk factors. As we continue this deeper look into the connection between gut health and stroke, I want to talk about something many people overlook. The aging body changes in quiet ways. These changes are gradual and subtle, which is why so many seniors dismiss them as ordinary parts of growing older. But for the brain, the heart, and especially the gut, these shifts play an enormous role in increasing stroke risk. One of the most important changes happens inside the digestive system itself. As we age, the gut becomes slower and less efficient. Muscles in the intestines do not contract as strongly as they once did, and the nerves that guide digestion react more slowly. This means food stays in the gut longer, creating discomfort, constipation, bloating, and pressure. Where most people see only irritation, the body sees a buildup of internal stress. That stress raises blood pressure, affects circulation, and pushes the brain to work harder just to maintain balance. Another change occurs in the microbiome, the vast community of bacteria inside the gut. Younger adults usually have a diverse, resilient mix of bacteria, able to handle dietary changes or stress more easily. But seniors often lose much of that diversity. Helpful bacteria become fewer, while harmful bacteria gain more influence. This imbalance increases inflammation throughout the body, including the blood vessels leading to the brain. A gut that loses helpful bacteria becomes more sensitive to stress, illness, dehydration, and medication. And even though seniors may not feel this happening, the brain certainly does. Medication also affects the gut in powerful ways. Many seniors rely on prescriptions for blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, mood, or chronic pain. These medications are necessary, but they can slow digestion, change gut bacteria, irritate the stomach lining, and alter hydration levels. When the gut becomes irritated or dehydrated, inflammation rises and blood flow becomes unstable. These shifts can quietly raise the likelihood of stroke, especially in older adults who take multiple medications without realizing how each one interacts with their digestive system. Another hidden factor is a weakened immune system. As people age, the immune response becomes less precise. Instead of calming inflammation, the body may stay in a low-grade inflammatory state for longer periods. This inflammation touches the brain's blood vessels almost immediately. Over time, the vessels stiffen, making it harder for blood to move smoothly. Seniors who struggle with chronic infections, gum disease, or unresolved digestive issues often have far higher stroke risk, even before any symptoms appear. I once cared for a patient named Harold, a gentleman in his 70s, who believed his constant bloating and slow digestion were simply signs of aging. He would shrug and say, "That's what getting old looks like." But after a brief episode of dizziness and weakness, doctors discovered that chronic inflammation from his gut had contributed to a blood clot that nearly traveled to his brain. Harold's story is a powerful reminder that aging is not the problem. Ignoring the signals is. When the gut slows down, when its bacteria change, when medications interfere with natural rhythms, and when inflammation quietly builds, the entire brain becomes more vulnerable. Seniors often feel these changes as fatigue, mild headaches, or digestive discomfort. What they do not see is the quiet pressure rising inside blood vessels. They do not feel the early imbalance in brain oxygen. They do not notice the clot silently forming. The body does not shout at first. It whispers, and those whispers often begin in the gut, long before the brain sends a clear warning. Next, we will explore the subtle symptoms that travel along the gut-blood-brain pathway and how they signal rising danger before a major event occurs. These signs may seem small, but understanding them can change everything for someone's future health and independence. Warning signs in the gut-blood-brain pathway. There is a moment in every senior's life when the body tries to speak long before the mind fully understands what it is trying to say. When it comes to stroke risk connected to gut health, those early messages often appear in small, easily dismissed symptoms. They do not look dramatic. They do not stop your day, but they matter more than most people realize. It often begins with a pattern of persistent bloating that is new or unusual. Many seniors experience bloating after heavy meals or certain foods, and that can be normal. But when bloating becomes a daily companion, especially paired with pressure in the abdomen or discomfort that seems to rise into the chest or neck, the gut may be signaling inflammation. This inflammation does not stay contained. It travels through the bloodstream, affecting blood vessel health, circulation, and eventually the brain's oxygen supply. Another subtle warning sign is new or worsening constipation. A slower digestive system can raise internal pressure, strain the heart, and cause sudden spikes in blood pressure that place stress on the delicate arteries leading to the brain. Seniors often shrug it off as part of getting older, but constipation can tell us that the gut is struggling, dehydrated, or inflamed. All of these conditions are directly linked to higher stroke risk. Some seniors notice sudden changes in appetite. They may feel full quickly or have little interest in food. Others may experience unexplained nausea that comes and goes without any clear cause. These symptoms might seem like simple digestive upset, but when they occur repeatedly, they are often part of a larger chain reaction. When gut bacteria shift out of balance, chemical signals sent to the brain through the gut-brain axis become disrupted. This affects appetite, mood, and energy all at once. Energy shifts are another overlooked sign. A person who normally feels steady might suddenly feel drained in a way that rest does not fix. This type of fatigue is not the typical tiredness after a long day. It feels heavier, almost like the body is working against an invisible weight. This can happen when the gut is inflamed, when nutrients are not being absorbed properly, or when silent bacteria cause inflammation that quietly affects circulation. Headaches paired with gut discomfort are one of the most important warning signs. Seniors sometimes describe these headaches as pressure behind the eyes or a tight band across the forehead. Others feel it as a foggy heaviness that comes shortly after meals or during digestive flare-ups. These symptoms can indicate that inflammation has begun affecting the blood vessels supplying the brain. I once cared for a woman named Eleanor who experienced mild nausea every afternoon, along with a strange sense of pressure building inside her head. She believed it was simply indigestion combined with fatigue. Weeks later, she suffered a transient ischemic attack, a temporary blockage that mimicked the early stages of a stroke. Eleanor later told me she never imagined her stomach problems had anything to do with her brain. That is the heart of this issue. The gut's distress rarely stays in the gut. It affects blood pressure, vessel health, oxygen flow, and inflammation levels throughout the entire body. Seniors, especially those with existing conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, or heart rhythm issues, are even more vulnerable. When these gut-related warning signs appear, they often show up days or even weeks before a major vascular event. That means the body provides time to act. The challenge is that the signals are gentle, quiet, and sadly easy to ignore. In the next section, we will take a breath and reflect before moving into lifestyle strategies that support both gut and brain health, helping seniors prevent these early signs from turning into long-term danger. As I think about patients like Eleanor, and so many others, who never realized their gut discomfort was part of a much bigger story, I'm reminded of how powerful knowledge can be. When you understand what your body is trying to tell you, you gain the ability to protect the life you worked so hard to build. That is why conversations like this matter so deeply. And before we continue, if this video is helping you understand your health, please subscribe, like, and share Senior Health Daily. It gives us the motivation to create more life-saving content for you. Your engagement helps our entire community of older adults stay informed, empowered, and safe. Every time you learn something new about your body, you strengthen your future. Every time you share a message like this, you may be saving someone else from a stroke they never saw coming. You are not just watching a health video. You are taking an active role in your own well-being and in the well-being of the people you care about. Now that we have grounded ourselves in this powerful understanding, let's go deeper into how you can protect your gut and brain every single day. How gut lifestyle improves stroke prevention. When we begin talking about prevention, something powerful happens. The conversation shifts from fear to possibility. I have seen this transformation countless times in my office. A patient walks in worried, overwhelmed by symptoms they do not understand. But once they realize that small daily choices can calm inflammation, steady blood pressure, and protect the brain, their entire outlook changes. I want you to feel that same sense of hope and control today. One of the simplest yet most overlooked protective steps is staying hydrated. Water helps your blood move smoothly through your vessels, reducing clot risk and supporting digestion. I once had a patient who struggled with daily constipation and afternoon headaches. It turned out she was drinking less than 4 cups of water a day. After increasing her hydration and adding a little lemon, she felt more alert. Her digestion improved, and her blood pressure became more stable. It was a reminder that the simplest choices often create the biggest shifts. Fiber also plays a remarkably important role. When you feed your gut with fruits, vegetables, oats, beans, and whole grains, you nourish the beneficial bacteria that help reduce inflammation. A gentleman in his 70s once told me he thought fiber was just for regularity. After adjusting his diet, he noticed not only better digestion, but fewer episodes of brain fog and afternoon fatigue. Science shows that a healthy microbiome communicates with the brain, helping regulate mood, energy, and vascular health. The gut is not just a digestion center, it is a control room for your entire body. Probiotics and prebiotics can deepen that benefit. These support the friendly bacteria that protect the gut lining and reduce inflammatory chemicals linked to stroke risk. You do not have to buy fancy products. Plain yogurt, kefir, fermented vegetables, bananas, garlic, onions, and oats all support a balanced gut environment. One of my patients loved gardening and began making simple homemade fermented carrots. Months later, she told me she felt lighter, steadier, and more mentally clear. Her blood pressure readings also improved. These are not coincidences. They are reflections of the gut-brain connection working the way nature intended. Another powerful step is reducing ultra-processed foods. These foods often trigger inflammation, disrupt the microbiome, and raise blood pressure. A man I treated after a mild stroke later revealed that he relied heavily on packaged snacks and frozen meals. When he switched to more whole, fresh foods, his digestion smoothed out and his energy rose dramatically. Your body responds beautifully when you give it nourishment instead of chemicals. We also have strong evidence that moderating red meat helps lower TMAO, a chemical produced by harmful gut bacteria that increases stroke risk. You do not have to eliminate it entirely. Simply reducing frequency and choosing more fish, legumes, or plant-based meals throughout the week can offer incredible protection. Many of my senior patients love Southern cooking and comfort foods, and they often worry about giving them up. But when they learn that even small adjustments can protect their brain, they find a new sense of purpose in their meals. Gentle movement is another essential piece. Walking after meals supports digestion, circulation, and blood pressure. One of my patients struggled with bloating and heaviness for years. He began doing a 10-minute walk after dinner, and not only did his gut improve, but his sleep did as well. Movement is medicine. It keeps everything flowing. Stress also plays a major role in gut and brain health. When stress hormones rise, the gut becomes more inflamed. The microbiome shifts in harmful ways, and blood pressure climbs. Even simple practices like deep breathing, warm baths, prayer, journaling, or quiet stretching can soothe the gut-brain axis. I have watched people transform their health by making space for stillness each day. Finally, knowing when to seek medical help is vital. Persistent gut symptoms should never be ignored. Long-term constipation, bloating that does not improve, sudden appetite changes, or new stomach pain can all be signs that the gut is struggling in ways that affect the brain. Routine checkups, blood pressure monitoring, and honest conversations with your doctor can prevent problems before they escalate. When you support your gut, you protect your brain. When you reduce inflammation, you reduce stroke risk. And when you listen closely to your body, you give yourself the best chance at long, healthy years ahead. Every choice you make is an act of self-respect. A glass of water, a handful of berries, a peaceful walk, a moment of deep breathing. These may feel small, but together, they build a stronger, safer future. And you deserve a future filled with clarity, strength, and vitality. As we reach the end of our time together today, I want to return to the heart of this message. Your gut and your brain communicate constantly, even when you are not aware of it. The health of your microbiome, the quiet signals from your digestion, the moments of discomfort or fatigue you brush aside, all play a role in the stability of your circulation and the safety of your brain. Sometimes the body whispers long before it raises its voice. And when we learn to listen, we give ourselves the chance to protect the memories, the faces, and the stories that matter most. The beautiful truth is that you have more control than you may realize. Small and steady improvements in gut health create real protection for your heart, your blood vessels, and your independence. A few mindful choices each day can reduce inflammation, stabilize blood pressure, strengthen brain function, and help safeguard your future. Awareness is not just information. It is one of the most powerful forms of self-care you can offer yourself at this stage of life. I am thinking now of a patient who once told me, after recovering from a stroke, If I had understood my gut was warning me, I could have prevented what happened. Her words stay with me because they are a reminder that prevention begins with curiosity, with noticing, with caring enough to ask what your body is trying to say. Thank you for spending this time with me, for caring deeply about your health, and for allowing me to walk beside you on this journey. Your willingness to learn, to grow, and to take gentle care of your body is something truly meaningful. Stay aware, stay gentle with yourself, and remember that your health is worth protecting every single day. If you found this helpful, I invite you to subscribe, like, and share Senior Health Daily so we can continue this important journey together.